Psychiatric Hospitals and Oregon State Hospitals, researched by Lauren Kim and Marcia O. Psychiatric hospitals and wards are built to help people with mental illnesses. It is a place for rest, reflection, analyzing their inner self, stabilizing medications, and intensive treatments. Oregon State Hospital from One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest is an example of psychiatric hospital.
After arriving at a psychiatric hospital, all patients have a time to consult with the doctor. Individual therapy is a face-to-face counseling organized like an interview with a psychologist, psychiatrist, or counselor to talk about their condition and receive advices.
This can be seen in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where McMurphy and the doctor has a separate time to talk and counsel about McMurphy. In page 107, the doctor informs McMurphy that he'd like to have him come down to his office for an interview because he interviews all new admissions.
The patients have their own personal time where the patient spends his or her time interacting with others, working, studying, or reflecting. The main characters in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest spends their personal time differently. For example, Chief Brandon spends most of his time cleaning the hospital with his broomstick. The other patients, including McMurphy and Cheswick, play Monopoly or poker.
Some of the patients in a good mental conditions are granted to go to their house during weekends. If not, there are visiting hours for families and friends to come over and spend time with them. Just like Cheswick's wife and Billy's mother who came over to the hospital to meet their loved one during visiting hours.
The hospitals advocate group work or group therapy sessions which involve an engaged conversation with other patients facilitated by one of the members of the hospital. In the novel, Big Nurse Ratchet says that group therapy gives patients a chance to air their problems, which is supposed to help the patients.
On page 57 of the book, McMurphy compares the group therapy to hand packing in which one bleeding chicken becomes the target of attack by the rest of the flock. He tells the people in his ward that Nurse Ratchet is trying to destroy the patient's manhood, as she refers to patients as rabbits in the therapy sessions. McMurphy is puzzled about how negative criticism helps the patients.
Patients in the hospital enter either by voluntary or involuntary admission. The Lunacy Act made in 1845 gave mental hospitals the authority to detain people with unstable minds. After this act was created, people could be compulsorily detained at a hospital transferring from prison or for the protection of other people and themselves.
According to McMurphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, written by Kinkisi, the voluntary patients do not leave the hospital because they are afraid to adjust to someplace else other than the wards, and they believe that they are not strong enough to make a living outside of the hospital.
We can also say that McMurphy administered to the hospital voluntarily through the Lunacy Act because he faked himself as a mentally ill person in order to get out of the prison. The book implies that McMurphy was eager to get out of the work farm prison to the Oregon State Hospital because he believed that the hospital would be more lenient than the Pendleton work farm where he was serving his sentence.
Patients who are determined to be too unstable may need to be kept in locked wards. All patients need to stay in the hospital until it is decided that their treatment becomes unnecessary. Patients are divided by the level of insanity and their behaviors. If they had the capability to harm other patients, they were sent upstairs.
Half of the wards on the south and north side of top floor are only available for patients who have high potential to harm others. According to the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it is also known as the disturbed ward. McMurphy was also moved to the disturbed ward after becoming enraged towards Nurse Ratchet, who blamed McMurphy for Billy's death. He attempts to strangle the nurse but is taken away and sent to the disturbed ward.
The Oregon Hospital was a private facility for mentally ill people run by Dr. Hawthorne and Dr. Roya in Portland, Oregon from 1861 to 1883 until they made an agreement with the state of Oregon to take care of their patients prior to the creation of Oregon State Hospital in Salem. In addition, the Oregon State Hospital is the actual place where the novel One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Kinkisi was filmed.